Hey, I'm Akurios and you're welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how singing works. Coming up. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for clicking that thumbnail to see what I have to say. And it's going to be a fantastic time today because we're talking about how the singing voice works today, the process of phonation, resonance, the different parts of the human voice system. And at the end of this video, I hope to answer some of the questions that you have based on your experience with your singing voice. Maybe you're having some experiences that are not too pleasant, or you're noticing some things about your voice and the different components of your singing mechanism that you'd like some serious answers on. And today I hope to answer some of those questions. So if this is the first time you're seeing me and you're interested in singing, developing your singing, you're interested in sharpening your music business skills, and you're also interested in recording and music production, then go ahead and tap that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so that you're notified when there's new content from me. As a vocalist, whether professional or amateur, it's very important to learn how your voice works. It's very important to learn how your singing mechanism functions, the different parts of it, and what role is played by the different parts so that you can learn precisely how to use it well and you can avoid misusing your voice. Yes, many have and are currently misusing their voices and finding themselves in different types of vocal problems because there are many of these types of problems that we should avoid. But I wouldn't be going into that in this particular video. What this video is going to be about is tackling the issue and the question of how the human voice works, because you may be watching this and you're asking yourself several questions why your voice or why several parts of your vocal mechanism are responding a certain way when you are singing or doing a particular thing. And I hope that some of those questions are answered in this video. So watch the video till the very end so that you will have those answers. I'm going to begin by introducing you to the human voice system. The human voice system is divided into four main parts. We have the motor, we have the vibrator, we have the resonators, and we have the articulator. All right, now the motor is the engine, it's the beginning where everything, the process of phonation begins. And the motor comprises the lungs and the diaphragm, and we'll go into that later. And the vibrator comprises, of course, the vocal cords that do the vibrating, hence the name. And then we have the resonator, which comprises the nasal cavity, the chest cavity, the sinuses, and every other resonator in the body. And I'm going to explain to you what resonance is and what exactly the process involves. And then we have the articulator, which is the mouth and the tongue, the lips, and everything that forms words and helps us articulate, make sense of the sounds that are being created by the process of phonation. So I'll take that again. We have the motor, which comprises the lungs and the diaphragm. We have the vibrator, which comprises the vocal cords that vibrate to create the initial sound. And then we have the resonator, which comprises the nasal cavity, the chest cavity, the sinuses, and every cavity in the body that God put there to make sound louder. And then we have the articulator, which is the mouth and everything in it that helps us make sense of the sounds that are created by the process of phonation. The articulator is there to make sense and to convert those sounds into words, into speech, into syllables and all that. Now let me describe the process of phonation. First of all, phonation is simply the creation of sound. That is what phonation is. When you hear me say phonation, when you hear me use that word in previous videos or in future videos, what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to describe is the actual creation of sound by the human voice system. And this is how it happens. Air is taken into the lungs through the windpipe. Of course, you breathe in through your nose and your mouth, and then the air goes down through your windpipe into your lungs. And then when you want to sing and when the instruction is given by the brain to create sound, what happens is that air is released from the lungs through the windpipe, and that air is what vibrates the vocal cords, and that vibration produces a sound. The vibration produces a sound which is amplified by the resonators, the cavities, the chest cavity, which is the lower resonator, or and the nasal cavity, which is the upper resonator, and also the sinuses. We have, of course, the maxillary sinuses behind the cheekbone. We have the sphenoid sinuses right inside, the ethmoid sinuses, and we have the frontal sinuses right here. Now, all these sinuses are resonators, so they help to amplify the sound that is created by the vocal cords. Remember, the sound created by the vibration of the vocal cords are very, very quiet. They're just like the strings on an electric guitar. The strings on an electric guitar cannot produce loud sound by themselves if the electric guitar is not plugged in. But if we take the same strings and connect them to an acoustic guitar that has an acoustic chamber at the box, the sound is loud, because the acoustic chamber, which is the box attached to the guitar, the neck of the guitar. Let me just pick up the guitar. So the only way we would be able to hear the sound generated by the strings of an acoustic guitar is by placing the acoustic guitar strings close to an acoustic chamber. This very box, it's just an empty box. There's nothing inside that contributes to the sound of the guitar. It has to be empty in order to create that resonance, that amplification of the sound of the guitars. So in order to hear that sound, there has to be a cavity. So the sound created by the vocal cords are amplified by the resonators, and then the articulator forms words, phrases, syllables. It now makes sense. That's how you're able to understand me, because the articulator is forming words out of the sound that is being created by the human voice system. So remember, I mentioned that the motor is comprised of the lungs and the diaphragm. The diaphragm is just a muscle that helps our breathing, helps the release of air, the pushing up the air through the windpipe to cause the vibration. And remember, there's no vibration without air. If there's no air from the lungs, there cannot be any kind of sound produced by the vocal cords. The vocal cords cannot vibrate by themselves. You cannot make your vocal cords vibrate by themselves, by yourself, by just willing it. No, the vocal cords will only vibrate with air. That's why when you run out of breath while speaking, you have to take in breath again in order to continue speaking. If you're going to keep speaking, you have to have breath. So this brings me to the my three laws of vocal development. If you want to develop your voice, you have to understand three things about singing and about the use of your voice. Number one, where there is no breath, there is no voice. Where there is no breath, there is no voice. You cannot sing without breath. You cannot even vibrate your vocal cords without breath. So always breathe in between phrases. Always breathe in between phrases. Law number two, there's no such thing as a trained voice. You do not end or complete the process of voice training or vocal development. It's a continuous process that lasts throughout the entirety of your life. If you're going to keep singing, then you have to keep developing your voice. You have to keep working at improving your voice and learning new skills. You cannot get to a point of your singing life and decide by yourself or by the help of any teacher or vocal coach that you have attained the highest level of singing. There's no highest level of singing. You continue your training for as long as you wish to keep singing, because when you decide to stop developing your voice starts to deteriorate. It starts to get worse. Just try it. You can even experiment on your own voice. If you decide to stop singing for 2 months, your voice is not going to improve. It's going to get worse. And you can try. You don't need to believe me. You just have to try it and see for yourself. So don't stop. There's no such thing as a trained voice. Law number 3, as an extension of law number 2, voice training and vocal development is a continuous thing. It lasts as long as you wish to keep singing. So keep at it, keep developing your voice, and keep looking for new ways to be a better singer. I talked about always taking in breath in between phrases. Now, this is what I mean. If you're singing a popular song, I'm going to think about a song that I'm not going to get a strike for. Okay, I have one. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. And the next phrase comes. So it's important that in between the phrases, you are taking in air. And that's the most comfortable way to sing, because if there's no breath, then there cannot be any vibration which is amplified to create and ultimately present the voice that you hear from a performer. If there's going to be any kind of successful singing and comfortable singing where we are hearing the sound of your voice and the words that you sing, there has to be breath. And the only opportunity we have to take in breath while singing is in between phrases. And the best way to inhale while singing is with your mouth and your nostrils open. Now, I've seen people inhale like this while singing. Now, that's not the most efficient way to breathe in. That's not the most efficient way to inhale while singing. The best and the most efficient way is with your nostrils and your mouth. The concept of resonance is what introduces us to the different types of resonances and the different types of voices that the human voice can, be expressed in. The chest voice, the head voice, and what we call the mix, which is the middle voice, a combination of both head and chest registers or resonances. And we're going to talk about that deeply in a subsequent video. But for now, you just have to understand the process of phonation, how sound is created, how the human voice system works, so that you can use your voice better. And you can understand some of the terms and terminologies that I'm going to be using in the course of these videos so that you can understand me very, very clearly. Now, talking about registers, talking about the chest register, the middle register, the head register, and all the kinds of voices and all the kinds of resonances that we can create. It's a complex topic and it's something that will help your singing. And I will demonstrate a couple of things to you because it will help you apply what we call tone color and different types of dynamics to your singing so that your singing would not be monotonous and have only one type of expression. You would be able to sing with feeling and sing with the full potential of your voice. So in summary, we've talked about the human voice system. We've talked about the 4 parts of the human voice system: the motor, which comprises the lungs and the diaphragm. We've talked about the vibrator, which comprises the vocal cords. We've talked about the resonator, which comprises the lower resonator, the chest cavity, the nasal cavity, and the sinuses. We've talked about the articulator, which comprises the mouth and all the organs in it that help to form the words that we say and sing. And we've also talked about the process of phonation. Air is taken into the lungs, the air is released when we intend to sing, and this air is what vibrates the vocal cords, which in turn creates a sound, which is not very audible, but is amplified, made louder by the resonators, the cavities, and all the spaces in our upper body and head. And then the sounds that are created are then translated into meaningful syllables and words by the articulator, which is the mouth. We've also established that where there is no breath, there is no voice. You cannot successfully sing without breath. So breath is important, and we're going to go deeply into breath management, breath controls in subsequent videos. So if this was helpful, just tap the like button, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so that you're notified when there's subsequent videos on developing your voice. And remember, if you have any question whatsoever, if you have anything to add to this video, if there's anything you want me to throw more light on, just be my guest and drop the comment down in the comment section below, and I'll be glad to get back at you. Thank you so much. I'm Akurios, and I'll see you next time.